They say money can't buy happiness. Sure. And I think that's true. But I think it's also true that at certain times in life, not having any money can be very, very stressful. As can be working for years and years and years until you're old at a job that you wish you could leave. But that's what we see today. We see a world where many people are stressed by money. 65%, about 2 out of 3 people say money is their greatest stress in their life.
Where's the survey?
This is a survey of 2,000 people in the United States.
What about Taiwan?
And I think Taiwan is similar. If you just look around, you see people struggle. 94% of people say they sacrifice their mental health for money and pursuing money. Today we live in a society that emphasizes consuming. It emphasizes what you buy. It emphasizes a good life defined by expensive purchases. And so today I want to describe and I want to talk about a different path. A path that ends in financial freedom, also sometimes called financial independence. A path where you don't follow that consumerism and instead you specifically structure your life to save money, where you reach a point where you have money saved and you are able to generate enough money with your investments without lifting a finger, that money can support your way of living. And at that point, you don't have to work. A lot of people use this strategy to retire early. Basically, it means giving up consuming and buying things, giving up stuff today in order to gain time. Time where you can do what you want. You can pursue arts, you can pursue education, you can pursue volunteer work. You can do what you want without worrying whether it makes you money or not. Gives you the gift of living your life the way that you want. Now, it sounds great, but it also sounds like maybe something of a dream. I've been pursuing this for a few decades.
How old are you now?
How's it work? Pretty old, 54. And not to spoil the ending, I don't need to work anymore because I've followed what's in this. So it starts. How do you start? You need to create an engine. You need to create an engine where every month you are saving money. And that means looking at your life and saying, I need to live my life so that the money I make is more than the money I spend. Structurally, systematically.
But people in Turkey did that, and hyperinflation has destroyed their savings.
Yeah.
So people save their money the whole time. So in Turkey, where they've got inflation like 30 or 40% inflation every month.
It's not just Turkey, is there?
Yeah, it's not just Turkey.
It is a good point, which is why in a few slides I'm going to get to what to invest in that would protect against things like inflation. Because you need to invest in things that would give you that protection and would grow. Yeah. So what do? You look at your life, and you might find places where maybe I can bring a lunch instead of buying one. Maybe I can take the bus at that time instead of a taxi. Maybe a coffee at home is almost as good as Starbucks.
So you're saying giving up temporary pleasures, because last week I read some studies that said that temporary pleasures are actually very beneficial for mental health.
Yeah, I like
temporary.
Like buying a cup of coffee in the morning, actually, these strings of happy moments together bring you more joy in the long run. And you're saying give up these strings of happy moments.
I'm saying you need to look at those and recognize their true costs. Because you may have small strings of small happinesses and then have years of unhappiness that result from that cause you to suffer overall.
John Chow read the same study as me.
If the speaker is talking, usually we try not to talk over them. So I just want to finish my point. You could perhaps raise your hand. And so it's striking that balance. I'm not just saying deny yourself everything. I'm not saying don't help somebody in need. I'm not saying don't give money at church. I'm not saying to cling to every penny in an irrational way. But we can structure our lives in order to not spend as much.
Can you give us an example of what you've denied yourself?
So for example, for myself, it's a good leading question about to what I was about to say.
Oh, fantastic.
The way I did this is I'm not good at doing budgets. I'm not doing good at tracking expenses. I find that annoying and I'm not into it. So what I did for the past about 12 or 13 years, every month in the morning on the 15th, my paycheck arrives in my bank account. In the afternoon on the 15th, I'm at the bank and I take 50% of it and I send it off to an investment account that I cannot touch and I cannot spend in my daily life. And then I look at the money that's back in my account and I live my life with that.
But most people cannot.
Yes, you have a question.
Yes, but most people cannot afford the luxury of knocking 50% of their salary every month. Some people in Taiwan, when you're earning like 20,000 a month or 25,000 a month, which is the minimum salary, that like you're going to rent an apartment in Taipei for that amount. So you take 12,000 of that, you invest that. It doesn't make sense for most people.
We'll get to like what's a good amount. The most important thing is a consistent amount. For some people, retiring when you're whatever at a young age is not feasible. But everybody has to reach a point where you're not going to work and you can live off what you've saved. Unless your plan is to work until you're 90 years old and be carried out on the last day of your life from your workplace.
Is that so bad?
You need, if somebody loves their job, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I'm not saying people should quit their job. I'm saying people should strive to have the freedom to live their life in the way they want. And that might include working at their job. It might include working at something else that doesn't make a lot of money, but they really love.
What about like bag packing? You know,
Bag packing, yeah. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I think bags are usually too heavy to put in a backpack.
No, bag. Like,
Bag packing.
Oh, bag packing. Okay, I thought you said bag packing. All right.
Bag packing, I like that.
We'll come at the end. I'm going to have a Q&A section at the end where alternative approaches maybe we can cover. But I do want to make sure the audience gets the main portion of the
Are we
presentation.
disrupting you too much?
I think that's for you to look in your heart and say. So you try and construct a structure where you are spending a lot less than you're making. And I will say that you cannot create this engine to get you to financial freedom if you have debt. So if anybody does have things like credit card balances or personal debt, job number one is take that savings and get rid of those debts. Because usually they have really high interest rates.
Or a mortgage?
Yes? Mortgage is the one type of debt that I don't say is too bad. Because paying your mortgage is about equal to paying rent, and it's usually a very low interest rate. So oftentimes, your savings can earn more than you pay in interest on your mortgage. If you have a high rate mortgage that's higher than what you could earn with your savings, then you might want to pay it down more quickly or consider living in a cheaper place. Pursuing this path does create sacrifices. Sometimes you look at where you live and say, it makes more sense to live somewhere cheaper. You know, it might make sense. We can live in the back of your van. Okay. And so, what do you do with all of these funds? So what if you, job number one is create this engine where you're saving money every month. And then what do you do with it? What I would recommend you do with it, first priority is create an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of your living costs is sitting there waiting for you available. Life, strange things can happen. You never know if next month or next week you're going to walk into work and find out you're not working there anymore. Or maybe a medical emergency happens for you and a family member. Surprises happen, and part of the path to financial freedom should be lowering your stress level about money and creating this kind of emergency fund that you can say, oh, okay, I lost my job. I have enough to live on until I find a new one, no problem. And for some of you, that may be the form of financial freedom that you want to pursue. That may be achievable. Not working for the rest of your life might be.
The insurance can cover this.
Yeah, possibly. Usually the reason insurance companies make a lot of money is they make you pay more than what they expect to give you, which means it's usually a losing deal, which is why I don't personally do that, but it makes sense for a lot of people though. Okay, so what to do with the money, because the green card is up. Every month I send it to a stock investment account where it buys low-cost index funds. Because over the past 100 years of data, it's found that index funds where you get the same return as the overall stock market is the best investment you can be in.
I don't
Yes.
get it. Can you tell?
What's an index
Yes,
fund?
what's an index fund? So Jenny has an excellent question, very politely asked. And basically an index fund is you put in money into a fund and it buys a small little piece of every single stock in the market. And so your amount that you put in, you own a little bit of all the market, and it lowers the risk of like a single stock crashing, or heaven forbid a crypto crashing. Yes, Jones.
How to choose the stock that you can put in?
If you can, I don't know, not everybody has access to a US market. I put it in the S&P index because it is the highest overall earning. There are probably options here in the Taiwan total stock market.
Taiwan is
And then, thank you. And so what I do is I just do that, so that 50% every month goes off to that, it goes in that, and you don't touch it. You don't think you're smarter than the market. You don't try and sell when you think it's overvalued. You don't go in and go out and try and be clever. You just leave it, and you get what the market gets. That historically is the best return. More than 80% of the funds managed by super smart Ivy League professional PhDs, 80% do not do as well as the index funds. Yes, Karen?
Do you have any theory to support this idea?
What's that?
Do you have any theory to support this idea?
Data.
I do know that Morningstar studied an 82% of actively managed funds where people were picking stocks and buying and selling. 82% performed worse than the S&P index fund. I do know that because when I researched it, when I chose my own. So now, real quick, in the time we have, I want to go pretty quick. What makes it grow? How does this contribution and savings each month, which doesn't feel that big, add up to something that can change your life? It uses what is Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. If you put money into something like a stock fund and it returns a certain percent each period, what happens is you put it in today, and this month it earns some interest. And next month, the money you put in earns more interest. And the interest you earn earns interest. And the period after that, the interest that you earned on your interest earns interest. And it keeps stacking on top, and it creates this kind of curve. And the power of that comes out mostly for people who are young, who can regularly contribute to it and have lots of time for your balance to go
It's too
like
late
that.
for me. It's too late for me.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
No, it's not too late. But you would have to save much more aggressively than somebody who's young. Quick example to show the power of compound interest. Mary saves 200 every 200 Taipei every
that's not
month.
down by one. That's down
Down
one.
one.
That's down one.
Down by one.
Down by one.
How much? Down by what? 20,000 NT dollars for us dumb English speakers. And she puts it in the S&P index, and it goes up 10% every year. And Mary works really hard at her job, and she gets promoted, and she gets raises. So every year she puts in about 5%
But I
more.
want to ask you, who can seriously save $20,000 a year? You're saying this is for young people. Which young person in Taiwan can actually put 20,000 NT aside a month?
Maybe-
Like kids rent and everything else in Taiwan. Like just sending your kid to school every month is
If
20,000
you can
NT.
save, exactly. Some people, this is impossible. Some people can save more than this. I want, for the purpose of this example, to show what does this 20,000 a month or 240,000 per year turn into. Under that thing, in 10 years it turns into 5 million, or who buy one. Another 10 years later, it's not twice as much, it's 4 times as much. It's 21.5 million. Another 10 years later, it's 63 million. That's compound interest at work, and it's your path to financial freedom.
Hey, the bill
Thank you
already-
very much.